الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. Okay, so a state is a form of political association or polity that is distinguished by the fact that it's not itself incorporated into any other political association. Um, okay. I wonder whether that's part of essence of a state, or we are just excluding it by definition. Though it may incorporate other such associations, that is political association. That's why you have states within a state, like provinces, for example. The state is that's or in confederation you have states like United States. The state is thus a supreme corporate entity because it is not incorporated into any other entity. Even though it might be subordinated to other powers such as another state or an empire or a union, maybe. So it can't be incorporated, but it can be subordinated. What does corporate entity means here? So he is saying that state is a supreme corporate entity. So corporate in dictionary means relating to, this is from Oxford, I think, to a large company. Or group company. You have a commercial aspect here which doesn't exist in a state as such, but a group. I'm still not sure whether it's a good word, but legally it is of a large company or group authorized to act as a single entity and recognized as such in law, or for shared by all members of a group. It is from Latin corpus, body. Okay. And what does, and he's been saying that state cannot be incorporated into, again, a commercial term in a sense. But incorporate just linguistically means to take in or contain something as a part of a whole. Include. So what he's saying is that state cannot be included or contained in another entity. In a specific sense, he means, otherwise he does say that it can be subordinated to another entity or even included in another entity, like states are included in European Union, but it can't be contained as a whole in another entity. I guess that's what he's saying. But to incorporate also mean commercially constitute a company, city, or other organization as a legal corporation. Yeah, so these two terms corporate and incorporate, I think, are um, not clear, or I'm ambivalent towards them at this point. Probably it's good to define a state like Singapore, but maybe not proper states. One state is distinguished from another by its having independent structure of political authority, that is government, and an attachment to separate physical territories. Obviously, a state requires political authority. In fact, a state is a political authority, and we distinguish it from political authority only because it is the sort of political authority which is permanent. On the other hand, government is something which changes or may change. Physical territories, yeah, I think that is something which is essential to state. Or you can constitute a state if you don't have a territory, even if it is your own house. The state is itself a political community. Another word, political community. How is the state a community? Though not all political communities are states. The state is not a nation or a people, though it may contain a single nation, parts of different nations, or a member of entire nations. A state arises out of society, but doesn't contain or subsume society. State for sure arises out of society, but it doesn't contain or subsume society. And what's the difference between society and community here? And how is state a political community? Okay, let's see these terms. Let's look at community first. Community is linguistically a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. A group of people living together and practicing common ownership. A particular area, place considered together with its inhabitants, a body of nations or states unified by common interests. Um, so community is a group of people that which have um, living in the same place, having a particular character in common. Because community is ultimately derived from a Latin word which means common. Old French community from Latin communis, communitas. From there we get the English common, English word common. So in England they used to have commons, the shared lands, and I think they still call their parliament commons. I think, I'm not sure. Um, The community is something common, a shared group, people, a group of people which have some shared stuff going on, a shared culture, a shared interest, a shared way of life. So that's a community. And society, I'll guess, more generic. Community is more specific, but I'll say community and society has a lot of things which are overlapped. So let's look at the meaning of society. Okay, so society, um, say the aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered community. So a group of people or aggregate of people living together in an ordered community. So community society is a form of community, meaning that all communities, all societies are communities, but not all communities are societies. So the order is something which is differentiating in this thing. Another definition is a community of people living in particular country or region and having shared custom laws and all. So that's almost same as community. And even the etymology of the word origin is from Latin socius, from which you get Latin societas, and that comes into French, and that comes society into English. Society in English, 16th century, mid 16th, companionship, friendly, association with other, companion. So his main companion in Latin. So it's saying mid 16th century in the sense companionship, friendly associations with other, from French society, sociate from Latins. So more or less same thing, society and community. Although in the usage, I get the sense that community is more a specific thing, uh, and society is more generic. But society, community is group of people shared way of life or shared laws and things and living together. That's society or community. Okay, so let's go back to what we were at. So a state is a political community, and did he say it was society as well? Let's see. So the state arises out of society. So I can agree with that, but it doesn't contain or subsume society. So I'm not sure about that because a state can subsume society. I would say subsume. It depends on what you mean by subsume. I would rather say that obviously we haven't defined state yet, so that's why. But society, I mean, my intuition is agrees with this that it arises. Sorry, state arises out of society. But he said state doesn't contain or subsume society. I would think it might. I mean, not in the physical sense, but in the sense that it becomes overwhelming, all encompassing in its authority and things. So even though it draws its authority from society, it in turn can reshape society, especially if the state is powerful. And what else? Another thing I want to say was that my intuition is that society, like we should see society, one aspect of society as, from one perspective, society is what we mean by society, but in other aspects, society is a state in that sense. So, society is a web of relations, and that web of relations is structured through various systems of obligations and authorities, etc. And when those structures and obligations and authorities are voluntary, I would call it society. And when they are non voluntary, when they are coercive, I will call it society, state. So coercion is part of state, although that's a coercion which is legitimate coercion. So that's my intuition. But let's see. A state will have government, but the state is not simply a government. That's true. Well, there exist many governments. I don't think that's the main reason, because state is a permanent government, and what we call government is which can change, and it does change. The state is a modern political construction that emerged early but has been replicated in all the. That I won't agree. Because state has existed as long as humans have existed. All the Europeans have constructed very powerful states of the sort which didn't exist before, but there's no justification as far as I can see. The state is a modern construction. Maybe we can say the state as we know it today is a modern construction, but that's something else. The most important part of the state that it makes it distinct and new from the political state is the most abstract quality. It is a corporate. Okay, so now he's going to define corporate entity again. So let's stop here, I think, and then continue from here. So our promise of doing a page hasn't materialized this time. Okay, thank you. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. اللهم صل صلاة كاملة وسلم سلاما تاما على سيدنا محمد الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به الكرب وتقطع به الهوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتيم ويستسقى الغمام بوجه الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لمحة ونفس بعدد كل معلوم لك. اللهم في هذه اليوم المبارك فرجنا وعن إخواننا في غزة. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربنا وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامنا وتوفنا بهم يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله تعالى على رسول الله محمد وآله وصحبه وذريته أجمعين.